All right, so I wanted to end the session today by giving you guys a snapshot of where is this program right now? Who's using it? What have we accomplished? To give you a little bit of inspiration, I hope, to press forward on various projects that you have in the hopper. This is where we are. We have 78 towns on board, okay? If you go, 79. I'm behind the times, 79 towns. If you go to our website, again, www.c-pace.com, if you click on resources, there's a page for municipalities and we list all of them, okay? And we update that every week. So you can always find out whether a town is in by just checking the website. This covers, 80% of the eligible properties in the state. So we're only in about a third of the towns, but we're covering most of the buildings. There are about 230 people that have sat in a room just like this and listened to all of us blather on for a whole day, so you're in good company. We really, really rely on contractors, and I hope you all know I use that term very broadly. People that are in the energy services industry to be our sales force, to bring us projects. Okay, we want to finance your projects, and that's why we make all of these resources available. We have actually 17 qualified capital providers. We've closed over $13 million in transactions. Okay, those are the ones you see around the room, but we've actually approved a much larger number that we're in process of closing on now. And we're in the very final stages of selling our first portfolio of loans to one of our registered capital providers, which means we will replenish the money that we have internally to continue to finance transactions in this way. So this is a big deal. We're very excited about it. For any of those of you that sort of follow energy finance, you'll know that it's very difficult for people to standardize energy loans in such a way that banks will purchase them, okay, at low interest rates. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish here.
A few slides ago, you mentioned commercial and mortgage-backed security, and that if it gets bundled and sold, then it becomes harder. You have to get all of them. Mm-hmm. You're saying you're going to bundle and sell all of yours. So if you previously had done a project, could you possibly run into that problem on the same client space?
So the issue with commercial mortgage-backed securities is that CPACE financing requires the consent of an existing mortgage lender, okay? That's a one-time requirement, okay? So when you initiate the transaction, you have to get that consent. Once a PACE assessment is on a building, it's just like any other special assessment, okay? There are no permissions associated with it. You don't have to get consent to pay it off, so you don't really face that same issue.
But I take liberty here. I think the gentleman was questioning whether if you have a second project on the same building 5 years down the road, you now have a loan that's been bundled and sold.
Yeah, so again, there's nothing that would prevent you from doing another project, right? So these investors don't have the ability to influence that.
Well, the only thing that matters is the mortgage one.
That's correct. Yeah, it's a good question. All right. I thought you can't read this, but I'm gonna do my best to sort of give you the high-level statistics. I wanted to sort of just give you a snapshot of what a full assessment project actually has looked like in Connecticut, what fast track projects look like. So this is a full assessment project. This is an office building in Bridgeport. They were working with MCOR, New England Mechanical, and they had been working on a large energy retrofit project for actually a couple of years, working with utilities to try to cover this thing with the incentive programs. But this building is fully encased in glass. It's very energy inefficient, and they really wanted to reskin the building, which is very expensive. So this was about a $2.5 million project. They were able to get almost $500,000, okay, from United Illuminating, which is not insignificant. So they were left with a $2 million project. I've spoken to these owners many, many times, and if they were here, they would tell you that this is not a project they would have moved forward with if they didn't have access to this type of financing, okay? There was not a bank that was going to give them $2 million for this type of project, and their investors were not going to do that either. but they were able to move forward with the project using PACE financing. Okay, they financed this over a 20-year term at 5.5%, and that calculated for them into an annual assessment charge of just over $160,000 a year. Okay, so this project is under construction. It's going to be done in the next couple of months. So July 1st, they're going to get their first bill, okay, for their CPACE financing. The project is projected to save $240,000 annually in energy savings. So these guys are netting $80,000 that they didn't have before, that they are going to have now. Okay, so that's really, really exciting. That's kind of the point of CPACE, is to deliver that annual cash flow. Okay, another example of a full assessment. This is our very first CPACE project. This was in Norwalk in a shopping center. I also like this project because it demonstrates a lot of the great things about PACE. This owner started out with a lighting project, okay, an LED lighting project in the exterior parking lot. And they mostly wanted to just do an aesthetic kind of upgrade to the building, make it more friendly and inviting to draw people in at night. And they wanted to build beautiful, historic wrought iron poles, obviously very expensive. They, again, went to the utility, Connecticut Light and Power. They got an incentive for the lights, and they had to come up with the rest of the money, which they did through CPACE. And then they ended up adding a solar installation, which is going to be built on a parking canopy, okay, on the top of this shopping center. So it will be very visible. This is also almost a completed project. So if you're ever driving down Route 1 and you see the shopping center with the big Bed Bath & Beyond and the Edge Fitness and the Bowtie Cinema, go see a movie and park on the roof, and you can park under that solar canopy. Okay, so the reason I like this project is, again, large capital investment, near $1 million. They received quite a bit of incentive from the utilities. They actually financed a piece of that million on their own, okay, and then they financed about $600,000 using CPACE. The majority of the cost of this project, I think Brian Bursteiner would tell you, was not energy-saving equipment. It was the poles holding up those lights and the solar canopy holding up that solar. Okay, but again, the energy savings that they were able to get over a 15-year period allowed them to build that whole project. So I think this is penciled out to about $53,000 annually for their PACE assessment, and they have an annual savings of about $55,000 that they're going to see. Okay, that does not even include all the tax credits and benefits that they will receive on the solar system. Okay, so just based on energy cost savings alone, this shopping center is now also netting a couple $1,000s every year.
On that project there, does the owner pay for all of the utilities that they upgraded? In other words, on shopping centers, a lot of times the tenants pay a lot of the portion.
So the tenants pay the utility bills here, and the owner will be passing through their portion of the assessment charge on this project. Great question. Another reason I love this project, it's a multi-tenant building, okay? And that was a big part of it. No landowner can make improvements without their tenants knowing. So this isn't kind of a hoodwinking thing where you put the solar panel up, surprise, and then there's an assessment charge. It's a conversation, but they have the ability legally to pass that through. And we actually were instrumental, again, in helping this owner model out what the cash flows would look like for each of their tenants, which is very important to him.
Right, because I mean, of course, we're not into the lease thing or the legal aspect of it, but I'm sure it's important to how it is really structured. You're not just going to give people money if the end user, the consumer, on the end isn't really benefiting. You don't want to give $2 million or...
Yeah. You know, the owners deal with this in various different ways, to be honest. We worked with an owner that just decided to master meter his building. It was sub-metered. He said, you know what, I'm going to rip out all those meters, give all my tenants a 10% break on their lease rate, and master meter the building. So there are a lot of ways that could happen, but they are passing it through. All right, just to show you a couple fast track what these look like. This is the details actually for the project we did for the Bushnell Theater in Hartford. They had their boiler plant from the 70s, which was on its last legs. And this kind of goes to someone's question back here about the utility incentives. This was a $700,000 boiler replacement for which they were able to get $16,000 from the utilities. So basically nothing, maybe 1% of the cost of the project. And again, it's because that boiler plant is very old, past its useful life, and the utilities, their hands were sort of tied. So they ended up getting a grant and financing just under $400,000 worth of this project through CPACE. They're looking at a net savings of $50,000. Okay, so for a nonprofit institution, that's huge. That's huge value for them that they can now put elsewhere into the institution. And our last fast track project is solar. We do a lot of solar projects. We consider all of these fast track. Okay, they're a single ECM. We can review these very quickly. This is one of actually 3 warehouses that the same sheet metal manufacturer has put solar on using CPACE. The whole cost of the project was about $300,000. They financed the whole thing through CPACE. They secured a ZREC, which I think we all spoke about today. And they are netting, where is that number? I think they're netting about $10,000 annually on this project. They have about a $26,000 savings every year and an assessment of about $15,000. So this is a great project because it demonstrates kind of what you can do with solar these days. And again, these numbers don't even reflect the tax credits. So if you are working with solar and you can get a ZREC, okay, and that owner can take advantage of tax credits and incentives, solar becomes a very quick payback measure. We've actually seen projects where, an ESCO that doesn't normally deal in solar threw a solar project in to offset the cost of the efficiency improvements, if you can believe that. Sort of a topsy-turvy example, but that does happen now, and again, it's the 20-year financing that makes that possible. All right, I'm sensing glazed faces. So luckily, I'm at the end of my remarks. Let me just close with a couple of quick things before you dart off. The first is if you have not actually completed your registration to become a CPACE contractor, you need to go online to c-pace.com and click on Contractor and fill out the form. Okay, those go to Will McAlpin. So if you kind of don't remember whether or not you registered, email Will and he'll get you up to speed. Second thing I wanted to mention is, again, the website. The program guidelines are on there, the list of municipalities are on there, all of these projects are on there. Okay, when we close on financing, we post a case study about the project. So please use our website. There's an inquiry box there. If you lose my business card, there's every single web page you can ask us a question and it will go to one of us. The last thing I want to mention is that we are rolling out this year 2 kind of new parts of the CPACE program that we're very excited about that I'd like you to spread the gospel on. The first is small solar. We have, for the most part, you can see in these projects, we've been financing projects kind of well into the 6-figure range, but we have realized over the past year that there is demand for financing for smaller solar projects. So if you have a lottery bid in right now for the small ZREC, and you thought, this is too small for CPACE, it's not. Okay, we will go below our sort of soft floor on financing for solar. The other is our boiler light program. For those of you that deal in boilers and you're a vendor for boiler products, you may know that there are new regulations around boilers. Okay, all boilers have to be replaced or undergo an energy assessment this year. We will finance very small boiler projects. If you have a $20,000 boiler project, we will finance that through PACE. It's a special application. Okay, it's a sort of revised initial application. There are no closing fees. Okay, there's just a flat application fee of $1,500. Again, that can be wrapped into the financing. And we will turn these around to you in how many days or less, guys? 3 days or less, okay, on the technical side. So you do not need to go through the whole CDMP with the audit, everything. You just give us the information about their current boiler, the new boiler you're gonna put in, and we can turn that around relatively quickly. Okay, so anywhere where you're working in the state where you work with smaller customers that they really want to change out their boiler, or they're somewhere in the state that's going to be on the receiving end of the new gas lines and they want to convert to natural gas, that this is a quick application that we can turn around quickly to you all. Is there anything else?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Just before we take off. So once again, as Genevieve mentioned, if any of you have questions about the status of your contractor registration, feel free to contact me. I think I've seen many of you and given you my business card. Feel free to grab me afterwards and we can chat. We'll be following up with everyone who registered here today with some more information, including, mentioned earlier, the potential for co-branding collateral pieces. So once you are registered and you send us more information like a logo and the services offered, we can put together collateral for you. We'll also be passing along, per a couple people's suggestion, a little more information about the multifamily program for those of you that are interested in that. If there's anything I'm missing, feel free to come grab me afterwards. So thank you guys. Thanks to Genevieve and the SRS team. Yeah.